Health Secretary Matt Hancock has admitted breaking social distancing guidance after pictures of him kissing an aide were published in a newspaper. He said he had let people down after photos emerged of him with Gina Coladangelo, whom he appointed, and he was very sorry. Mr. Hancock is not the first senior figure to be embroiled in a pandemic sex scandal. Professor Neil Ferguson had to quit his government advisory role after meeting his married lover during the first lockdown. Health Secretary Matt Hancock has been having a secret affair with his closest aide, the Sun can reveal today. It bears her husband's surname, which she does not use professionally, and is sponsored by Lord Bethel, the hereditary peer, health minister and former lobbyist. She was working previously for Luther Pendragon. The firm boasts clients who have secured lucrative contracts during the pandemic, including British Airways and Accenture, which received £2.5 million to help build the NHS COVID-19 app. The pair first met at Oxford University in the early 2000s, but Mr. Hancock went on to wed Martha Hoyer Miller in 2006. The Hancocks remain married and have 3 children. He cheated on his wife with Gina Coladangelo, 43, who he hired last year with taxpayers' money, as COVID gripped Britain. Labour urged the PM to sack Mr. Hancock, calling his position untenable. But Downing Street said Boris Johnson accepted Mr. Hancock's apology and considered the matter closed. A spokesman added that the Prime Minister had full confidence in the Health Secretary. Mr. Hancock, 42, and millionaire lobbyist Gina were caught on camera in a steamy clinch at his Whitehall office. Whistleblowers revealed the Health Secretary had been spotted cheating on his wife of 15 years with married Ms. Coladangelo. He was seen kissing her at the Department of Health's London HQ during office hours last month as the mutant strain began spreading. And today, Mr. Hancock apologized for his actions, saying, "I accept that I breached the social distancing guidance in these circumstances." The Sun reported that its pictures of Mr. Hancock and Ms. Coladangelo, who are both married with 3 children, had been taken inside the Department of Health on the 6th of May. Social distancing at work is not a legal requirement, but the government recommends that people keep 2 meters apart where possible, or 1 meter with risk mitigation, such as standing side by side or wearing masks. Labour Party Chairwoman Annalise Dodds said of Mr. Hancock, "He set the rules. He admits he broke them. He has to go. If he won't resign, the PM should sack him." And a Labour spokesperson said the matter was definitely not closed, despite the government's attempts to cover it up. The government believes no laws were broken because Mr. Hancock and Ms. Coladangelo were both in the department for legitimate work purposes, sources say. Media captioned Annalise Dodds on Matt Hancock. "The Prime Minister needs to act." The Liberal Democrats called on Mr. Hancock to resign and accused him of hypocrisy over social distancing. And the COVID-19 Bereaved Families for Justice group said it was heartbreaking that Mr. Hancock had been ignoring the rules while we were unable to hug friends and family at our loved ones' funerals. In a statement, Mr. Hancock, 42, said, "I accept that I breached the social distancing guidance in these circumstances. I have let people down and am very sorry. I remain focused on working to get the country out of this pandemic, and would be grateful for privacy for my family on this personal matter." Appointment scrutiny. Ms. Coladangelo, a friend of the Health Secretary since they worked on a student radio station at Oxford University, was made a non-executive director of the Department of Health last September. The role comes with a £15,000 salary and involves 15 to 20 days of work per year. Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has written to the Cabinet Secretary, the UK's most senior civil servant, asking him to investigate whether Mr. Hancock broke ministerial rules by failing to declare that he was engaged in a relationship with someone whom he personally appointed at taxpayers' expense. A government spokesman said Ms. Coladangelo's appointment had been made in the usual way, and had followed correct procedure. The Times has reported that Mr. Hancock failed to declare their friendship when appointing Ms. Coladangelo, who is also communications director for fashion retailer Oliver Bonas, as an advisor in March last year. She held the role for 6 months, before she was appointed to the Department of Health's non-executive board. Ferguson criticism. In May last year, epidemiologist Professor Neil Ferguson resigned from the government's scientific advisory group, SAGE, after it emerged he had broken lockdown rules when a woman he was reportedly in a relationship with visited his home. At the time, Mr. Hancock called these actions extraordinary, adding that social distancing rules were there for everyone and deadly serious. On Friday, Labour's First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, said Mr. Hancock had been quick to condemn, adding, "We can't make laws for other people and not be willing to abide by them yourself." But Mr. Hancock's colleagues rallied around him, with International Development Secretary Liz Truss telling the BBC, "Mr. Hancock does have my support." Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said there was a complete difference between what people do in their job and what they do in their personal lives. However, Conservative backbench MP Andrew Bridgen said that if the Health Secretary felt that the revelations over Ms. Coladangelo had affected his performance of his role, he should consider his position. Mr. Hancock has been married for 15 years to Martha, who is an osteopath. Ms. Coladangelo, 43, is married to Oliver Bona's founder Oliver Tress. Ms. Coladangelo then walks towards him and the pair begin their passionate embrace. According to a whistleblower, who used to work at the department, the pair have regularly been caught in clinches together. The source said, "They have tried to keep it a secret, but everyone knows what goes on inside a building like that. I'm just amazed he was so brazen about it as he was the Secretary of State. It has also shocked people because he put her in such an important, publicly funded role, and this is what they get up to in office hours when everyone else is working hard." The office where the tryst happened is where Mr. Hancock famously hangs his Damien Hirst portrait of the Queen. The affair will inevitably raise questions about his focus on the UK's virus battle after he was accused of lies over his handling of the pandemic. He stands accused of failing care home patients with botched testing, wasting billions on a bungled test and trace rollout, and squandering millions on PPE contracts which failed to deliver. Annalise Dodds MP, chair of the Labour Party, said today, "If Matt Hancock has been secretly having a relationship with an advisor in his office, who he personally appointed to a taxpayer-funded role, it is a blatant abuse of power and a clear conflict of interest." The charge sheet against Matt Hancock includes wasting taxpayers' money, leaving care homes exposed, and now being accused of breaking his own COVID rules. His position is hopelessly untenable. Boris Johnson should sack him. And it is not the first time he has been accused of misusing public funds as the virus crisis raged. His former neighbor was awarded a lucrative contract worth millions to help make COVID tests, despite having no previous experience in the field. Alex Bourne, who ran Mr. Hancock's local in Suffolk, WhatsApped the health secretary to offer his services, sparking sleaze allegations from opposition MPs. Boris Johnson had thrown a supportive arm around his embattled cabinet colleague, but faces a tough decision in light of the Sun's bombshell revelations. Word of the affair has been circulating within the department, with colleagues openly discussing the situation on WhatsApp. CHUMOCRACY claims mother of 3 megaseconds Coladangelo is communications director at Oliver Bona's, the fashion and lifestyle store founded by her husband Oliver Tress. She is also a director and major shareholder at lobbying firm Luther Pendragon, which offers clients a deep understanding of the mechanics of government. Mr. Hancock secretly appointed her to his department as an unpaid advisor on a 6-month contract in March last year. It sparked claims of a chumocracy when it became public knowledge in November. It also emerged she had accompanied Mr. Hancock to confidential meetings with civil servants and visited Number 10. Sunday Times sources revealed at the time, "Before Matt does anything big, he'll speak to Gina. She knows everything." In September, Mr. Hancock appointed her as a non-executive director at DHSC, making her a powerful member of the department's oversight board. It hit the headlines as there was no public record of the appointment, which was set to see her earn at least £15,000 of taxpayers' money, potentially rising by a further £5,000. The role makes her responsible for overseeing and monitoring performance, in effect, scrutinizing matters of concern to Mr. Hancock. A DHSC spokesman said the appointment was made in the usual way and followed correct procedure. It is also understood that since April, she has had a parliamentary pass, giving her unregulated access to the Palace of Westminster. It bears her husband's surname, which she does not use professionally, and is sponsored by Lord Bethell, the hereditary peer, health minister and former lobbyist. She was working previously for Luther Pendragon. The firm boasts clients who have secured lucrative contracts during the pandemic, including British Airways and Accenture, which received £2.5 million to help build the NHS COVID-19 app. The pair first met at Oxford University in the early 2000s, but Mr. Hancock went on to wed Martha Hoyer Miller in 2006. The Hancocks remain married and have 3 children. Mr. Hancock is not the first senior figure to be embroiled in a pandemic sex scandal. Professor Neil Ferguson had to quit his government advisory role after meeting his married lover during the first lockdown. The Boffin, 51, broke social distancing rules when he allowed Antonia Stotts, 38, to visit him at his home at least twice. Professor Ferguson led the team at Imperial College London, which honed Britain's COVID-19 battle plan while claiming 500,000 Brits would die unless it was enforced. Other high-profile individuals caught out for breaking COVID rules included Dominic Cummings. He traveled 260 miles from London to a family cottage in Durham while suffering COVID symptoms at the height of the pandemic in March 2020. His rule-breaking was exposed in May 2020, sparking national fury despite him saying he had acted reasonably and legally.